Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yuli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And today I'm going to be doing something that I said that I would never do and I have been so reluctant to do for such a long time. I'm going to be chopping my big Variegated Monstera. And when I say big, she's kind of 11, 12 foot nowadays. She's very tall. And she's very beautiful, but for various reasons that I will talk about as we get into the video, I have decided to chop her. So here's the video of me doing it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope I enjoy it too. Let's get into it. So, because she's so big, I can't actually stand her upright for this video, and I've kind of been thinking for the last few weeks that maybe I will chop her, and the main reason being is that some of her auxiliary buds down towards the bottom of the plant have actually started to pop and give me some lovely new growth, and I know that if I was to trim back a little bit of the top of the plant, then instead of pumping its energy into new top growth, it would probably push its energy reserves into giving me some lovely bushy growth towards the bottom. So I think over height, I'm kind of going to go with density, and I'm really hoping that's what's going to happen. But my mum had some people coming in to fit a new carpet earlier today, and I had to move her from her spot so that she wouldn't get damaged. And so my mum helped me carry her down the stairs to where she is right now on the floor. She is so tall, she will not physically stand upright in this room. But also I know she hasn't been particularly happy in the spot that she's been in. She's literally only been there because she's so tall and there's nowhere else she would have fit, but it hasn't had the best light for her. It just hasn't had the best overall conditions. So I'm also thinking if I give her a little chop today, then I'll be able to have her back in this room, back in her optimum conditions, get her looking a bit healthier as well as kind of more full, more lovely. And although I'm really sad to do it because I do love how big she is, I know that she will grow back. So I feel like it's kind of a win-win situation, and she'll also be a lot easier to move when I come to moving house soon. So I think it's definitely the right decision. So I've got a very clean pair of scissors and I'm gonna take some cuttings. I'll show you where I cut and why I cut there, and then we will get them propagating, get the rest of the plant looking a little bit healthier, and then hopefully find her a new position in this room where she can do really good things for me. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so I'm gonna just, okay, my first cutting, I'm gonna cut her and then I'm gonna show you. Oh, I'm scared. It's done. I've done it. Okay, so I've got a beautiful top cutting here. So if you look at the leaves there, that's part of the reason why I've decided to chop her. You can tell those leaves are not particularly happy, and the main reason that this has happened is just because the top of the plant hasn't been getting any light at all in the position it's been in. But where I've cut just below the node of the plant, which is this bump here where the petiole meets the main stem. Editing Claire jumping in for a second, just because I feel like I didn't make this clear enough when I was actually filming the video. Whenever you take a cutting of this plant, you must make sure that your cutting has a node on it, because the node is the point where your roots are going to sprout from, and without a node, you will get no roots and your cutting won't do anything. So make sure you always have a node. And as you can see, she's got some incredible aerial roots there. So I think when I get them propagating, they will just help to give me a really good root system. And as you can see, she has got some others kind of forming there, which might not do anything, but they absolutely could. So I think that's a pretty big top cutting, but I feel like it'll do okay. And also actually looking at the most recent leaf that hasn't actually hardened off yet, as you can see, it actually doesn't have any variegation at all. And this Monstera isn't particularly highly variegated, but the fact that she's pretty much reverted is another reason to chop her, because again, it will just help to preserve the variegation in the mother plant. And also then I'll get loads more plants out of her. So yeah, now I've started, I'm going to keep going. So I'm just going to put all of the cuttings that I take to one side and just allow them a few hours to callus over, just so that the risk of them rotting is reduced, and then figure out how many more cuttings I want to take, because I don't want to take too much height off the plant, but again, I don't want to be too precious about it. So I'm going to take some more. So So again, here I've just taken another 2-leaf cutting. So you can see that one's got quite a nice balance of variegation. I mean, again, not highly variegated, but again, you can just see that this leaf isn't as happy as it could be. So I'm not going to feel too bad about doing this. And again, insane aerial roots, and both nodes have got aerial roots coming out of them. So I do think that this is probably going to be another one that does quite well. Again, I'm just going to put it to one side to callus over, maybe take a couple more cuttings, and then she'll probably fit back in this room, and then we can get them propagating. Okay, so I've just taken a cutting that has the most insane aerial root on it. Look at that. That is just ridiculous. That's like, it's almost like a full root system in itself. And I'm not sure whether or not to make these into 2 separate cuttings, because again, I could cut between the 2 nodes, and again, the nodes are just the little bumpy bits just behind where the petiole meets the stem. I could technically cut there again and have 2 separate cuttings, but there's not a very well established aerial root on this bit here, and although you don't need an aerial root to produce roots, I'm kind of thinking it might have a better chance if I was to just pop the whole thing in moss. So for now, I think I'm going to put that to one side and I'm going to leave it. But yeah, okay, right, I've just taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leaves off this plant. So I feel like she's going to be a lot smaller, which is fine because she's going to grow healthier now. But I'm just going to now go ahead and just take a proper look at all of the leaves, trim back any browning that's there, and then I'm going to try and find a place for her in this room, get her upright, and hopefully get her in a position where she's going to be happy. Okay, this is the moment of truth. I'm going to try standing her up and see if I've taken enough off and she will fit in this room or not. Ah, success, just about. So again, because of the position she's been in, all of her leaves are kind of facing weird directions at the moment. They're not all facing one way. And that's another reason that I wanted to get her in this room, because again, I'd like her growth to kind of even out a little bit. And hopefully she won't be looking quite so wonky when I move her to my new place. So this is the temporary position I've put her in. The reason that she's all taped up at the moment is just because when I was taking her downstairs, I didn't want soil going everywhere. But this is where she is at the moment. And as I say, this is literally only for the next couple of weeks until I move. But as I say, these conditions are much more ideal for her. And I just really hope that this encourages lots of the auxiliary buds further up the stem to pop. And hopefully she'll fill out a lot more as she started to do the bottom and give me some lovely new growth. So I'm actually filming this the next morning just because a massive thunderstorm came in last night and you wouldn't have been able to hear me speak, but it's definitely given them enough time to callus over. If you look at the bottom of the cuttings now, you can see they're really hardened off. The risk of them rotting is significantly reduced. You could also seal them with wax if you wanted to. I'm personally not going to bother just because, touch all the wood, I've never had an issue with them rotting before. But yeah, so I've tried quite a few different ways propagating these plants over the years, and the one that I've had the highest success rate with has been sphagnum moss. So that is what I'm going to be propagating them in. This also isn't the normal type of sphagnum moss that I use. I personally really like to use Soil Ninja's live sphagnum moss, which I'll link below because it's awesome. But this is just the stuff that I got from B&Q, and I've got some left over, so I'm going to be using that, and I'm using jars. So I personally, when I propagate in sphagnum moss, I don't use something with a drainage hole just because I find that by using a jar, it just kind of helps to contain the humidity, and you want the humidity in the jar as much as you possibly can just because it helps to keep the moss hydrated and encourages your roots to form. So I'm going to start with the top cutting, and I'm just going to put a little bit of sphagnum moss in the bottom first. I'm not going to really pack it in. I want it to be quite light and airy still, but I just want to get a little bit in there. So yeah, like that. And then I'm just gonna, assuming it'll fit, I should have actually checked this before I started, but I'm just gonna pop my cutting in. And the most important thing that you want to do when you're putting your cutting into whatever substrate you're using, whether it's perlite, water, sphagnum moss, you always just want to make sure that the nodal points are completely submerged and covered. And in my case here, because I've got aerial roots, I want to make sure that they are also submerged in the moss. So, oh, you're gonna fit? There we go, just about. Cool, and then I'm just gonna fill, oh, you can't see me at all. I'm just gonna fill some more sphagnum moss so that all of those areas are covered. And the really important thing when you're using sphagnum moss to propagate is just to make sure that it stays consistently hydrated but not soggy. So if it becomes really kind of wet instead of just being damp, then your risk of your cutting rotting is increased a lot. So you don't want it to be really kind of soaking wet, but just lightly damp so that the humidity in there stays nice and high. And as I say, just encourages it to start producing some lovely roots. And I can't decide when these are rooted whether or not I'm gonna pot them back up with my original mother plant, or I'm gonna kind of get them started as their own plants. I think I'm gonna have to wait and see how the mother plant does now that I've taken some cuttings, and see how much she fills out. And if she's still looking a bit sparse when these are ready to be potted, then I might just pot them back into the same pot. But yeah, cool. So that's that one done. And as you can see, I can kind of see the aerial roots on the back there, so I'll be able to see when they start doing stuff for me. And now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do the other ones. And this one again's got some really nice aerial roots, but they're all kind of poking up. So I'm just going to try and encourage them down a little bit if I can. If I can. Perfect. And that is that one done. And then the last one, I know it's got a really insane aerial root, and to be honest, I think I'm going to need to give this a bit of a chop back because I'm not going to be able to fit that in the jar. And to be honest, it's not really going to do the plant many favours having an aerial root that long, so I'm not going to take the whole thing off, but maybe just to about there. Yeah, I think that should be good. So yeah, I've just taken that off. And I'm hoping these cuttings should start to root fairly quickly. It's very warm in this room at the moment, which definitely helps the propagation process. If you want to help speed up propagation, often raising the temperature is a really, really good way to do this. Obviously making sure that your cuttings have got enough light, lots of humidity as well. But I'm thinking they should start to root in the next week or so. That might be ambitious, but I think it could happen. I started propagating a variegated monstera that I've currently got in my cabinet. You can see it there, the little half moon leaf just there. I started propagating that maybe 5 weeks ago now, and it's already ready to be potted up. So when they get going, they do go fairly quickly, and it really depends. It depends on so many things with propagating. It depends on the time of year that you're propagating, the environment of your home, all that sort of stuff, the genetics of the plant. And to be honest, it's really hard to put a time limit on how long it should take, but I would expect these ones to take maybe 5-6 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, but I will make an update video and I'll keep you updated with them and let you know how they're getting on. I'm hoping it should happen fairly quickly. I know some people use rooting hormones, rooting gels, powders, stuff like that as well. And for some plants, if I don't have a very high success rate with propagating them, or I'm kind of a little bit unsure and I want to make sure that they take, then sometimes I do this just to kind of speed up the process and increase my chances of success. But I've propagated Monstera and Variegated Monstera so many times in this way before, and I really don't want to jinx it, but I feel pretty confident about this way of propagation. And so I haven't used any kind of rooting gel or anything like that. And I think they will be just fine like this. But as I say, I will absolutely keep you updated with them. And yeah, hopefully it will be a speedy and stress-free process. But yeah, cool. Right, that's all of them done. So as I say, I'm just going to make sure the moss is kept hydrated. I think I'm probably going to pop them over there on my shelf just because I've got a bit of space there at the moment because I cleared some plants out. In an ideal world, I would put them in my cabinet just because, again, it's got really good light, heat, humidity. But this room as a whole at this time of year tends to be fairly good. So I'm going to just pop them down there on that shelf and come back to them in a few weeks, see how they're getting on. Make sure to keep you updated. If anybody's got any questions at all about propagation in terms of variegated monstera, normal monstera, anything like that, drop me a comment down below and I will do my best to help. But yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.